Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 46th part of What If Deku Had a Robot Wolf. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 46, Reunion. The return to UA was a quiet one. Just a simple walk back to the school from the station. It was just Izumi, Durandal and Himiko since Rolls had to stay on the train to get to her school. Izumi had been mostly quiet on the way back. Her mind focused on the little chat she had with that unknown voice. What she said confused her. Why was she so suspicious of the man who delivered humanity the moon? And why ask her to look into it? It didn't make any sense. She's a first-year UA student, not an investigator. She wanted to investigate the voice further. But, where could she start? She had no leads to follow or any idea of who the voice belonged to. She had nothing to use to track down who talked to her, or evidence to prove that it happened. She couldn't tell a hero about it. Without evidence, she couldn't get anyone else to investigate it. Damn the true words law. Whilst it made it difficult to present evidence gathered using mental quirks, it also made crimes done using mental quirks such as mind rape or memory theft difficult to prove or act on. Guess she'll have to look into this herself. Anyway, whilst she was once again worrying about things out of her control, and Durandal was busy looking into the technology used in the development of the moon colony, Himiko was quite talkative. She was engaging in casual talk with both girls and one robot she was with. But, as they got closer and closer to UA, she got quieter. And as they made their way back to UA, she was silent. Was she worried about returning to UA? Afraid to show her friends and classmates what happened to her, the changes she had gone through? She was okay with it before. The only people she had to interact with were those who were there when the change happened, plus Toru, who had promised not to tell anyone about it. But now she was about to return to a class that did not know what had happened to her, that she had changed, for better or worse. It can't be easy to return to a group of people you knew after undergoing a drastic change. Izumi, Himiko said as they walked through the gates of UA, still wearing her disguise. It'll be okay, Himiko, Izumi said with a friendly smile, everything will be fine. Our classmates will not turn on you just because you changed. Besides, Tsu will be able to help you. You know that. If anyone can help you with this, it's her. Himiko looked at her before nodding slightly. Yeah, you're right. Tsu would know what to do. She's been through this before. I just hope nobody notices until I can talk to her in private. We can run interference if you want, Durandal said. Himiko shook her head. No, I should be alright. Alright then, Izumi said, performing one last check to see that Himiko's disguise was good and hid her hair and eyes. Just remember, if things get uncomfortable, you can go to your room. And I'm sure the other Snuggle Squad will want you to join us tonight. Himiko nodded slowly as the 1A dorm came into view. Just a few more steps, and they would be home. They opened the door and stepped inside. Welcome back, fellow classmates of 1A. Inasa said before he bowed his head into the floor as the three entered the dorm. Thankfully, a pillow was below him, preventing him from cracking his head open. I hope your internships were as great and hot-blooded as mine was. Izumi and Himiko sweat dropped. Was he waiting there for them to return? Of course, just like Inasa had first greeted them, Momo came up behind him. Izumi, Himiko, Durandal. Welcome back, she said with a bright smile. I'm glad to see you both safe and sound. Big sister. Eri said as she rushed over and hugged Izumi. Hey, Eri, Izumi said with a smile, returning the hug. Has everything been okay whilst I was gone? No, Eri replied with a frown. I'm sorry. I used my curse. Eri, it's alright, Izumi said softly, accidents like this are bound to happen, but you are not cursed. I told you we will help you learn how to control your powers. Okay? Eri looked up at her and smiled slightly. Okay. Izumi smiled and brought Eri closer. Only for Tsu to come out of nowhere and tightly hug her and Himiko, accidentally bringing Eri into the hug. Not that the young girl minded the sudden hug from the frog girl. She always gave good hugs. Izumi. Himiko. Tsu cried as she hugged them, rib-biting slightly. I'm so glad you're okay. I saw the news reports, ribbit. I saw those things, those Nomu. How can there be more of them? How? He's dead, Mutator's dead. He can't mutate anyone anymore. Yet those things, they bear his marks. How can that be, ribbit? How can they be mutated when he's dead? Izumi was caught off guard by her friend's sudden outburst, but she should have expected this reaction from her. Tsu didn't react well the first time she saw a Nomu, so finding out that more of them would be horrifying. It's okay, Tsu, Izumi said softly as she and Himiko returned the hug. It's going to be okay. We're here for you. How can there be more? How can there be more? Tsu cried, rib-biting softly, only those who were there mutated. There can't be anyone else. There can't be, ribbit. Mutator's dead, he can't mutate anyone. So how can there be more? I don't know, Izumi said with a frown, but I'm sure that sooner or later, someone will find out how these Nomu are created and stop it. Are you sure, ribbit? Tsu croaked. They all said the same when Mutator was killed, and yet, here we are now. More people getting mutated by his gas. It'll be okay, Tsu, Himiko said, no matter what, we're here for you. Tsu ribbited softly, thank you. The three hugged for a bit before they broke off the hug, which disappointed Eri a bit since she was enjoying it. Tsu, can we go somewhere private if it's alright? Himiko asked, there's something I need to talk to you about. Sure, Tsu said, ripping the tears from her eyes before the two walked off. Izumi waited for her two friends to leave before asking, is everyone here, or are there still people yet to return? Everyone but Achiko, Toru, Hanta, Hitoshi and Tenya are here, Momo replied. We're still waiting on them. I checked the group chat, and they're mostly about half an hour away. So they should arrive soon. Izumi. The familiar voice of Achiko said happily behind them. Izumi quickly turned around with a smile. And found herself smothered by Achiko's conquers. Wait, what? She didn't remember Achiko's chest being that well endowed. Was it Nijire whose chest she found herself in? She looked up and was met by Achiko's bright smile. Wait, looked up? Wasn't her girlfriend shorter than her? She looked down, and nope, Achiko was not floating. Her feet were firmly on the ground. Wow. You've grown, Momo said, looking surprised. She walked over and checked the height difference. Good lord, you're almost as tall as me. Didn't Nijire say you got hit by a bust enlargement quirk? Durandal asked. Where did the extra height come from? Achiko rubbed the back of her head, yeah, about that. It turns out that, alongside several mental quirks that tried to scramble my brain, I was also hit by a quirk that gave me a sudden growth spurt. No idea why one of the guys there had a quirk that could do that, but they did, and they used it on me. Not everyone who chooses to go into crime do so with a quirk that would be useful, Durandal said, it's why such people choose to use weapons to even the playing field. A knife is much more dangerous than most quirks. Explains why most of the children of blood didn't have quirks that were useful for combat, Achiko said, still hugging Izumi. Apart from the 3 mental quirks used on me and the quirk they used to pull me into that alleyway, none had quirks that were good for combat. Meanwhile, Izumi was blushing up a storm. Okay, her girlfriend had gotten taller and bustier thanks to a quirk. Okay, that was unexpected. Talk about one hell of a growth spurt. But then again, quirks were weird. She thought about it momentarily, and yep, she was okay with this. She was okay with her 5 feet 7 inches girlfriend. Still, why didn't she tell her about this change? A little warning would have been nice. She then noticed something, Achiko's chest was feeling extra soft today. Achiko, she said quietly, are you wearing a bra? Achiko blushed lightly before whispering, sorry, but none of my old ones fit, and I wasn't able to get replacements because my body was still growing. Thankfully, It's stopped now, so I should be able to get new ones, she said before muttering, once I've sold some stuff that is. I don't have enough to afford new bras. Izumi's face turned bright red, and a small amount of steam escaped her ears. She just got a faceful of her girlfriend's chest and wasn't wearing a bra. Okay, so Achiko had a good reason not to have one, but still, didn't change the fact that she could feel the girl's bare chest through the shirt she was wearing. Achiko, Momo said, if it's alright with you, I can make you some replacement undergarments. Wah! Achiko gasped, accidentally pulling Izumi into her chest. I mean, I can afford a few bras. No need for you to waste money or lipids on me. Achiko. You've just undergone a sudden and drastic change, and bras are expensive, Momo said, plus, you're probably going to need an entirely new wardrobe. How much of your old clothing still fits you? Achiko looked sheepish before sighing heavily. Not a lot, she reluctantly admitted. Momo sighed. Achiko, remember what I said on the second day of school? Buying you some replacement clothes won't affect me in any way, shape, or form. Nijire also said that Ryukyu will cover the costs of any new clothing you may need. You were under her care at the time. Besides, introducing a few bras into the world won't affect the economy in any way, shape, or form. Making a kilogram of karasorum, on the other hand. Achiko sighed. Okay, but just this once, okay, she said, also, still salty that May convinced you to make some karasorum? Momo nodded, still don't know what she's going to do with it or with that assault hound she somehow got her hands on. Yeah. Shopping. Mina said loudly, popping up from behind Momo, we can have a girls' day out. I've been wanting to go out and get myself a new bikini anyway. I'm thinking a leopard print one would suit me. You are, is this a conversation I should be around for? Inesa asked, a worried look on his face. It's fine, Achiko waved off, you just stay there and wait for the others to get back. You are, Achiko. You appear to be suffocating my big sister, Eri said. I am? Achiko said before she looked down and gasped, oh Izumi, I'm so sorry. She said as she pulled Izumi from between her chest, are you okay? I'm fine, Izumi replied, her face bright red. Mina was just grinning as she watched. Those two were just so fun to tease at times. They were just so cute together. Shame she was more interested in boys at the moment. Izumi gave herself a few moments to cool down before stepping back. Achiko, if it's okay with you, can we talk in private in my room, please? Sure, Achiko said with a smile before following Izumi and Durandal to the girls' room. Durandal, wait outside, please, Izumi said as she and Achiko walked inside. Durandal obeyed without question and guarded the door. Once inside, she turned towards Achiko, why were you quiet all week? Izumi, Achiko said before Izumi cut her off. I spent all week trying to contact you after I got the word you were injured, Izumi said, why didn't you say something? I spent the entire week worrying about you, and the only information about your condition was from Nijire. And all that told me was that several mental quirks and a bust-enlarging quirk hit you. Why didn't you contact me? Achiko frowned and lowered her head, I'm sorry, Izumi. I was just scared of you seeing me like this, changed, taller bustier. I know I should have told you about this, but I didn't know how you would take it. I've gone from being shorter than you to being much taller than you, and I was worried how you would take it. Achiko, I love you, and whilst this change is sudden, I can get used to it. But you can't keep something like this hidden from me, Izumi said, this is a big thing, and I was worried about you. You can't just ghost me for a week while I'm trying to find out if you're okay or not. I know, and I'm sorry, Achiko said, I shouldn't have kept you in the dark about this. But I will make it up to you, I promise. Izumi frowned. She knew Achiko meant well, but this was not a secret that she should have kept. Now one for all, that secret needed to be kept. That had a good reason not to tell someone something. Gaining a few inches in height after a villain attack and being effectively mindfucked, now that was something you should tell those close to you about and keep in contact with so that they know you're fine. I believe you, she said with a frown, but I do expect you to make it up to me for ghosting me for a week. And, as punishment for this, I expect lots of snuggles from you. She said before Achiko shot forwards, forced Izumi against the bed and snuggled up to her. "You've been waiting all week for this, haven't you?" "Yep," Achiko replied with a smile. Izumi sighed. "You've been around Nijire unsupervised for too long." "Yep," Achiko replied with a smile. "You'll be surprised how much of a hugger she is." Izumi shook her head before snuggling up to Achiko. God, she missed her girlfriend. She just wanted to spend the next few hours snuggling up to her and maybe a few hours after that snuggling up to Eri. Her little sister needed snuggles. Yes, she was enjoying having a little sister, do not judge her. She closed her eyes and rested her head against Achiko's chest. Yep, she was okay with her girlfriend being taller. While this was all happening, Durandal was busy with something he had been looking into for most of the day. Edgar D. Henderson. The man who gave them the moon and established a colony after 200 years of stagnation. From a quick glance, everything looked legit. Even a deep search proved nothing odd. The technology developed for the colony was well documented by Hard-On Industries. The company that led the Moon Colony project before Garada Inc. took over after the CO, the entire board of directors, and the higher-ups were all killed in a terrorist attack. Then there was Edgar D. Henderson himself. The man's quirk, advanced mind, gave him ideas on highly advanced machines, aka all the technologies required to start developing the tech required for making a moon colony. Thanks to this quirk, the sudden appearance of many extremely advanced technologies out of nowhere can be easily explained. Because quirks can do that, easily explain a lot of things away. He kept his inventions a secret for 45 years so that no one else stole them. He received funding from almost every country in the world as well as thousands of investors. And all that funding allowed him to hire a lot of help, allowing him to complete the project in about a year. Everything that could be questioned had a believable answer, silencing any doubt that there was anything suspicious about him or the project. But then he found something that caused everything to fall apart. The man had no family. No family left alive, that is. They all conveniently died 18 years ago at a party he was invited to but never attended. But they left behind an extensive internet trail, especially one old and forgotten tweet, buried deep within the bowels of the internet, with a video attached to it. The man's quirk reveal party. Durandal never understood Americans. Paxton was British, and many of his sentient robots shared his nationality, himself included. So many things Americans did confuse him, such as their gun laws, the blind belief that their country is the land of free, and their questionable laws of quirk usage. Seriously, even Desto knew that there had to be some laws to restrict quirk usage. Complete, unrestricted quirk usage would lead to anarchy. He may be a bit harsh there, but he was created by a madman who never said anything good about America. Anyway, Americans like to, on top of throwing pointless parties to reveal the gender of their newborn children, also like to throw parties to reveal their children's quirks, which was utterly ridiculous. Seriously, it's just a gender or a quirk, no need to blow up your home to reveal something you can just as easily tell or show. And whilst Edgar D. Henderson's was just as pointless, it was informative to the mechanical wolf. The man was quirkless. The entire story fell apart after that. Like a massive tower with only one small fault that, if it breaks, would cause the entire thing to collapse. Being quirkless wasn't as much of a problem in America as in Japan. 40% of the population of the United States was quirkless, and it was a stable population. But that didn't change that Edgar's entire story was bullshit. That man was quirkless, advanced mind was a made-up quirk. He didn't come up with anything. Someone gave him the means to make that technology. Someone smart. They didn't give him everything, just enough to start the process and make the next step more believable. But that wasn't the most horrifying thing he discovered. One of Edgar's best roboticists, Jensen Edwards, was responsible for developing all of the robotic tech needed for the colony, a man who also supposedly died with the rest of the Hard-On Industries higher-ups. There was nothing suspicious about the man. Up until you looked at his face. The same face that belonged to Dr. Paxton Frederick Jones. Durandal spent a long time frozen in shock. His creator, who caused so much death and destruction, was a part of Edgar's inner circle. He was part of the Moon Colony project, right slap bang in the middle. Whatever Edgar did, whoever or whatever he made a deal with to give him that head start, Paxton was right there with him. He was there right from the start of this mess. And it horrified him. Meanwhile, Tsu and Himiko entered Himiko's room. Himiko quickly made her way to her bed, which was covered in plush toys, and sat down, picked up one of the plushies and started to hug it. "So, what did you want to talk about, Himiko?" Tsu asked, standing off to the side. She was worried about her friend, especially since the attack. And the fact she was hiding her eyes and hair told her something was at least wrong. Himiko took a few deep breaths before she looked up at Tsu. "What do you know about the Children of Blood's attacks on hero agencies, mainly the ones that had Noma with them?" Tsu gulped. That was not a question she was hoping Himiko to ask her. She had heard a lot about those attacks. She just wanted to be sure that her friends were safe. But there was one rumor that someone had died during the attack but had revived soon after as a monster. There was no evidence of such a thing happening, a few things, ribbit. Mostly that they had green veins like the one from the USJ. "What about the rumors?" Himiko asked, hiding her head behind her plush. "The ones about someone dying and coming back a monster?" "No. Gods, please, no," Tsu thought in a panic, hoping that this wasn't about to go where she thought it was going. She nodded her head but didn't say a word. Himiko frowned and closed her eyes. She then took off her sunglasses and hat, letting her now red hair flow down around her shoulders. She then looked up at Tsu and opened her eyes. "Before you ask, I wasn't hit by mutation gas." Tsu's eyes widened in shock. "What happened to you?" she asked, a worried tone in her voice. "I died," Himiko replied quietly, a horrified look appearing on Tsu's face. "The Nomo attacking the Team I-10 agency, it crushed my head. It killed me, but I wasn't truly dead. I was still aware of my surroundings. Even without a head, I could still hear what was happening around me," she explained. "It was horrifying. To be aware of what was happening around me but unable to react to it. Then, my body started to move on its own. I wasn't in control, yet it still moved. And it attacked Izumi. I couldn't do anything but listen. I didn't know what to do, I didn't know how to take back control. Then my head regenerated, and this is what I look like now. A freak, a monster." "Himiko," Tsu said, taking a step forwards, "you are not a freak. Yes, you've changed. Yes, what you went through was horrible. No, it does not make you a freak or a monster, Ribbit. You are not the only one who has undergone an unwanted change. Just look at me," she said, pointing at herself, an angry look in her eyes. "What happened to you pales compared to what happened to me? Your hair and eyes changed. Yeah, that's horrifying. How about growing an additional pair of arms, having your hearing altered, your teeth falling out and replaced by shark teeth, and spending every waking hour of your life resisting the urge to devour the flesh of everyone around me, Ribbit? I did not ask for this. I did not ask for any of this. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time and have suffered ever since. Take it from someone who spent the last 8 years being called a monster by those around me and trying my damnedest not to become one, Ribbit. You are not a monster. You are not even close." Himiko froze. She didn't expect that kind of reaction from Tsu. Yes, she knew the frog girl was blunt and always spoke her mind, but she did not expect her to be so aggressive. Plus, this talk about shark teeth and eating the flesh of others was new. Why didn't she tell anyone about this before? Shark teeth? Tsu lowered her head before she moved her lips apart, revealing rows of shark-like teeth. Not every mutation we received was related to our original mutation. And it wasn't just physical changes we received. There were mental changes as well, Ribbit, she explained. Frogs are meant to be prey animals, and I had that mentality before I changed. But after mutating, my mentality changed to become more predator-like. And it wants meat, fresh meat. Your quirk gives you the desire to eat meat? Himiko asked. This was a shocking discovery. She'd never seen Tsu eating much meat before. No, my quirk doesn't make me want to eat meat. My mutation does. Tsu spat. I don't like other people seeing that side of me, so I normally subside my hunger alone. Ribbit. Lunch rush provides me with raw meat from time to time to help keep it under control. Tsu, my quirk gives me a craving to drink blood, but I'm more than happy to drink it around everyone else, Himiko said. But I don't have your confidence. I only ever felt safe eating meat at home, Ribbit, Tsu said quietly. I know UA is different, that my classmates will be okay with me eating raw meat, but I can't get over my fears of doing it in public. Himiko sighed and took a few deep breaths. She didn't want to explode on the frog girl, not after what she's been through, but she did want to give the girl a piece of her mind. Tsu, I wanted to talk to you to see if you could provide me with any help about my sudden change, not to hear a sad sob story about how your life was shit, Himiko said with a frown. Yeah, you mutated and grew an additional pair of arms as well as some other stuff. So what? You're not the only one whose life was shit. You weren't born with a quirk that disgusted your parents, you weren't forced to suppress a craving your quirk gave you, your parents didn't force you to be normal, to be someone they wanted you to be, not who you wanted to be. She spat. You didn't spend 7 years being forced to live a life that you didn't want to live. You didn't dash, she shouted before quickly stopping and curling up on herself. No, she didn't want to remember that, not that day, not that day. Tsu watched Himiko break down in front of her, rapidly burying herself in her pile of plush toys. She knew Himiko had had a rough life, but she didn't know it was that bad. She lowered her head. This wasn't what she wanted to do. She didn't want to make an already bad situation worse. When Himiko showed her what happened, she knew she had to help her. But when she heard her call herself a monster, something inside her snapped. She just couldn't allow Himiko to call herself a monster after what she's been through. Guess she didn't bother to ask if Himiko had a hard life either. I'm sorry, Tsu said with a frown, I went too far there. It's just that, after all the shit I've been through, I am utterly done with people calling themselves monsters, she said, tears in her eyes. Hearing you refer to yourself as a monster, plus with what happened earlier in the week, I just dash. I'm sorry. Himiko slowly looked up at Tsu, shuddering slightly. It's okay. The past week has been hard on both of us, she said with a slight snuffle. This didn't play out the way I thought it would. Guess we're both been a bit tense as of late. Tsu nodded. There were moments of silence before she spoke again. I think we should start from scratch. This conversation got a bit heavy. Himiko nodded as she slowly popped her head out from beneath the pile of plushies. Yeah, we probably should, she said before straightening herself out. So, I'm Himiko. I recently underwent a traumatic experience that caused my hair and eyes to change color. I suddenly can regenerate, magnetize blood towards me, use the quirks of those I transform into, and God knows what else. And I want some help from you so I can come to terms with this change, she said in the most casual way possible. Tsu giggled. Sure, I can help you Ribbit, she said with a small smile. Can I join you on the bed? Standing here is a bit tiring. Okay, Himiko said with a smile. Tsu nervously nodded and walked over to the bed, cautiously getting onto the bed. I'm sorry about earlier, she said. I didn't mean to unload that all on you. I'm sorry too, Himiko said. Things just didn't go how I had thought they would go. I wanted this to be a simple talk about helping me with all of this. Not whatever this descended into. Make-up snuggles? Make-up snuggles, Tsu replied before Himiko leapt out of the pile of plushies, grabbed Tsu, and pulled her into the pile. The two snuggled up close to each other. Comfy? Himiko asked with a smile. Yep, Tsu replied, content with her current position, snuggled up to Himiko underneath a pile of plushies. As they snuggled up close, the two noticed their faces were quite close. Small blushes formed on their faces as they noticed how close they were. The two leaned back away from each other. But after a bit, the two slowly started to lean in close until their faces were again close. The two held their heads close, their lips almost touching, but neither was willing to make the last push. Tsu, feeling responsible for the clusterfuck of emotions from earlier, suddenly lurched forwards and kissed Himiko. surprising the vampire cat girl for a few moments before she melted into the kiss. Neither of them had kissed or been kissed before, but they were hero course students and were more than willing to learn. Plus, Himiko had the most experience watching other people kiss from all the porn she watched, so she probably had a better idea of what to do. Yes, she was too young to watch that sort of thing. No, it was not going to stop her. Stage 1 complete, Sue thought as the two kissed. What was that about a step 1 being completed? Himiko asked. Ribbit, Sue let out a worried croak. Did she accidentally say that out loud? Bugger. Sue, I'm waiting, Himiko said as she leaned in close, a large smirk on her face. You are, stage 1 of my plan to turn the Snuggle Squad into a snuggle polycule, Sue replied nervously. Oh, you horny frog, I love it, Himiko said with a smirk, consider me all for this. But let's wait a while before moving on to stage 2, okay? Wouldn't want to jeopardize our resident cinnamon rolls relationship, now would we? Sue nodded, agreed. Those two are adorable together, and I do not want to be responsible for ruining their relationship, Ribbit. Let's give them some time before we start stage 2, okay? Okay, Himiko said before leaning in again and kissing her. Today may have been a roller coaster of emotions, but despite all the bumps, it ended on a good note. Meanwhile, at CI Academy, Psycho Intelli, who had long since returned to school, was waiting for her roommate/girlfriend to arrive in her room. She lay on her stomach, resting on her bed, idly flicking through her phone. She wore red shorts and a matching tank top, her signature monocle over her left eye. There wasn't much to do now that she was back. Classes won't start till Monday, and Rolls wasn't around to spank, so she was just checking the news and checking in on Chiharu. The blue-skinned girl was surprisingly nice despite who her mother was. As well as easy on the eyes. She yelped when she felt a sudden hard slap on her butt. She turned her head behind her and saw Rolls leaning against the wall, smirking. The sneaky bitch. What, you had your butt sticking up like that? How could I resist? Rolls said before she walked over, dumping her bag on the floor and sitting on her bed. You were just waiting to do that, weren't you? Psycho asked with a frown before she smirked, I am so going to have fun getting some revenge on you later. Oh, I can't wait, Rolls said before she started to strip down. So, who's this Chiharu girl you've been thinking of? Oh, just someone I met during my internship with Uwabami, Psycho replied, long since used to having her girlfriend look inside her head. They kept no secrets in their relationship, she's quite the cutie, daughter of Chitose Kazuki, by the way. Huh, interesting, Rolls said, having finished stripping down to her lacy red undergarments. She then laid back in bed and sighed, I met that cute adorable bunny Yusako by the way. She was interning with Ingenium, same as me. Well, that's interesting, Psycho remarked as she sat up, learn anything interesting about her? Oh, I learned a few juicy things about her, Rolls replied with a smirk, as well as a few things I shouldn't have. Well, I'd like to learn a bit about her, Psycho said as she got up and walked over to Rolls' bed, but first, she cooed as she climbed onto the bed and straddled Rolls, her hands gracefully moving over the other girl's curves. Let's have some fun. Rolls smirked, letting out a low moan, you just love putting those hands of yours all over me. What can I say? I just love smart girls, Psycho whispered before she leaned in and kissed Rolls. Rolls' phone suddenly started to ring. Psycho quickly got off Rolls with an annoyed sigh before the other girl quickly picked it up and looked at the number. It wasn't one she recognized, but it was one someone else she knew recognized. With a smirk, she answered the call, well. I was wondering when you were going to call me, Marietta. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 47. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.